Did you know that BDSM and kink are healthy outlets for aggression, imagination, and attention? Hi, and welcome to The Partition, home of Kinky Wellness. My name is Dana Slosser, and I'm a sexual wellness coach that dives deep into all things kinky. I'm here to show how BDSM and kink deserves a rightful spot within the sexual wellness conversation. So, let's talk about it. Hey, and welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking to you about your shadow self and why it's important to use your imagination to bring your shadow selves to life. You see, each of us have hidden personalities that we don't actually want people to see. So we tuck those personalities away in the furthest corners of our minds. And some people even push them so far away that they think that they have forgotten about these personalities. Every malicious, humiliating, dangerous impulse or thought we do not want to identify with lives in that space. Negative personalities or feelings such as pain, fear, doubt, anxiety, nervousness, and shame chill out there. Every self-fulfilling prophecy of I would never or that's totally not me regresses into that dark side of ourselves. But to spare you from the theatrics, not everything that goes there is negative. Positive traits or traits that make us quirky or unique that got made fun of or shamed for also hides out there. From birth, we are bombarded with messages of what is and what is not acceptable. Normal, typical, regular, tolerable, suitable, customary, appropriate, standard, conventional, etc., 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 from family, educators, society, and culture in general. So as we grow older, we slowly learn to suppress those pieces that don't fit in. Maybe you wanted to be in art, but people made fun of you or your art. Maybe you were punished for stepping out of social norms. Regardless of what it is, anytime somebody triggers us into, making us feel small, that piece just goes and hides away. These micro interactions make a huge component of our overall development, though. Most people try to protect themselves by shunning, ignoring, or rejecting those different pieces for fear of being made fun of again, or want to just stop the punishments from happening. However, repressing pieces of ourselves comes at a steep price. Pushing memories, feelings, or thoughts down isn't going to make them disappear. So when those desires, wants, and thoughts get repressed, they quietly start taking control of the unconscious part of our minds. You need to be aware that there's a part of you that is silently running on its own and is searching for the unconscious things that you actually want. Which are those parts of you that you originally pushed down into your shadow self? In my case, I had to realize that I do actually like being controlled. But it took me a long time to actually admit that because I grew up in a household that tried to control me in all the wrong ways. So in the meantime, I found myself in a few actually really bad, abusive, and controlling relationships where I was actually fighting for control over what I did, and I couldn't understand why. In order to break this suppressive behavior, I had to do what my subconscious was asking for. I had to bring forward the unconscious desire of wanting to feel controlled. This allowed me to spot when someone was being controlling in a good way or in a bad way. But this happens for all those quote-unquote negative traits that they say people have. The world isn't just 100% good and 100% bad. And that includes you, that includes me, that includes everyone on this planet. We all have some quote-unquote evil in us. I found a cool chart that outlined the different shadow types, their characteristics, and root causes that go along with it by a spiritual counselor named Mateo So. There are 13 of them in total, and I thought it would be fun to share those with you, as it will only take a minute or two. When we deny the existence of our shadow, we might end up experiencing their side effects in our day-to-day life. Who knows, maybe you might be experiencing a characteristic from a denied shadow self. So to make this easier, I'm just going to go one at a time. So the first one is egotistical, and the characteristics are arrogance, inconsideration, self-indulgence, narcissism, and excessive pride. Its root cause is not being good enough or being a nobody. Second is neurotic. Characteristics is paranoia, obsessiveness, suspiciousness, demanding, masochism, compulsive, and finicky. So the root cause of this is fear of life, others, and self. Desire to regain control. Third, untrustworthy. Characteristics: secretive, impulsive, irresponsible, deceitful, unreliable. Fear of life in general is the root cause. Fourth, emotionally unstable. Moody, melodramatic, manipulative, weepy, over-emotional, impulsive, and changeable. Its root cause is basic feeling of being unloved and powerless, reaction to unresolved emotional pain. Fifth, controlling. Its characteristics are suspicious, jealousy, possessive, and obsessive. Its root cause is basic mistrust of life, feelings of abandonment, and also not being good enough. 6 is cynical, which characteristics are negative, overcritical, patronizing, resentful. And its root cause is protection against feeling too vulnerable. 5th is wrathful. Characteristics include ruthless, vengeful, bitchy, quick-tempered, and quarrelsome. Its root cause is fear of others, mistrust of life, and having a closed heart. 8th is rigid. Characteristics include uptight, intolerable, racist, sexist, uncompromising, inflexible, and narrow-mindedness. Its root cause is fear and rejection of the unknown chaos. 9 is glib. Characteristics include superficial, cunning, inconsistent, sly, and crafty. Its root cause is distrust of life, others, and self. 10, nonchalant. Characteristics include emotionally detached, distant, indifferent, uncaring, and unexcited. Root cause is buried grief, fear, shame, numbness is also a defense. 11 is naive. Characteristics include petty, immature, and illogical. Its root cause is refusal to grow up and lack of individuated ego. 12 is cowardly. Characteristics include weak-willed, timid, and fearful. Root cause is also fear and disbelief in self. The last one is perverted. Characteristics include sadistic, lustful, depraved, and corrupt. Root cause is repressed sexual energy, possibly unresolved childhood wounds. How was that? Are you still with me? I'll put the link in the chart, but I think it's important to hear this because I believe many of us are carrying more than one of these shadows at a time. In order to stop these characteristics that we are doing, we need to overcome the battle and assimilate a certain level of bad into our lives. Which is why I love BDSM and kink so much, because through BDSM and kink, these shadows can be exposed and divulged. When we feel each characteristic completely, selfishly, and abundantly, that's when we can let it go. If you continue to repress one or more of these characteristics, they will become destructive and devastating to your mental and physical well-being. I know in the beginning it can be conflicting to admit that there are parts of us that are controlling, naive, or even wrathful. But accepting our shadow self is needed for self-development and integrating our good with our bad, which allows us to become more whole. By deliberately reclaiming, honoring, and satisfying our shadow self, we are able to break these negative patterns. Seeing those bad thoughts or impulses, then experiencing them in full force, allows those thoughts and impulses to be seen, heard, felt, and completed. Again, allowing you to move on. You don't want to be carrying around this stuff with you. Shadow work can be investigated in several ways, like self-exploration, journaling, or talk therapy. But when it comes to shadow work, you always want to make sure you have someone you can talk to and who you can trust. Moving something from your unconscious mind to the conscious mind is not something to take lightly. Sometimes you don't know what's going to sneak up on you, and it's an overwhelming and emotional journey. So never be afraid to seek professional help. Taming your shadow self is hard, but it's worth every uncomfortable, unsettling, mind-blowing moment. I saw a quote that said, "The secret is out. All of us, no exceptions, have qualities we won't let anyone see, including ourselves, our shadow. If we face our dark side, our life can be energized. If not, there is the devil to pay. This is one of life's most urgent projects." And I 100% agree. Sometimes it's nice to play the bad guy, you know? It isn't to say to be a bad guy, just play one. Like the list mentioned, some of the characteristics to look for are depraved, fear, sadistic, masochistic, uncompromising, patronizing, clinical, deceitful, superficial, obsessive, corrupt, etc. Now, this isn't to say to let these characters run wild, but you can't deny the underlying desire to live life to the fullest and to feel some of these things as well. We want to feel every possible emotion, but from a very early start, we are influenced to want to feel certain ones, and certainly only the quote-unquote good ones. But by denying the existence of these other, maybe not so popular characteristics, they will subconsciously take over and influence your life. So we need to use our imagination to bring them to life intentionally. So through BDSM and kink, you can give your shadow self a taboo level of approval, giving it the attention it deserves in a safe and controlled space with other consenting adults. You can unveil your other sides in a creative and expressive way. By allowing your shadow self to live out its full potential, we ignite the power of free will and choice while discovering hidden truths about ourselves. And the deeper you dive into a particular emotion, the more awareness you create for it, which will help you to identify it in the future. There is no one-size-fits-all formula when working on your shadow self through BDSM and kink. However, there are a few things to take note of. Pay close attention to your moods and thoughts. Follow the instincts and emotions that pique your curiosity. And as you follow those curiosities, witness and observe them without judgment or self-prosecution. Be kind to yourself. Shadow work is exhausting, so make sure you really do have someone you can trust. Many deep, expressive emotions are going to surface when you're doing shadow work. You may choose to work individually or with a trusted partner, but remember, establishing a successful partnership within BDSM and kink takes time and requires various levels of commitment. You really need to get to know your partner beforehand and be transparent that you are doing this for shadow work. Not everyone will want to say yes to this, which is fair. But regardless, you still need an outlet to release those suppressed emotions or your health is going to be affected. People who suffer from repressed emotions often have a high level of stress, anxiety, and depression. And sometimes it's challenging for someone to recognize repressed emotions. It can attack our mental states in many ways. Some articles say people have a higher tendency to forget things or get distracted, feel numbness, and even get unexplained nervousness. Some people accidentally identify these tendencies with their identity, allowing those repressed feelings to become more self-destructive over time. Seriously, health issues from repressed emotions are no joke, and I wish more people knew this. Physical symptoms are often linked to stiffness and pain, issues including muscle tension, nausea, digestive problems, appetite changes, fatigue, sleep problems, so many things. And repressed emotions continue to have a significant impact on our interpersonal relationships. Our feelings can become a ticking time bomb waiting to explode at a minor trigger. And when people feel numb, they often fill their days with social media, drugs, alcohol, television, and even other people to avoid feeling the feelings they do not want to face or explore. But a chain reaction of self-liberation occurs when you start integrating the unconscious shadow with your conscious mind. You gain the freedom to explore the good, the bad, questionable, dirty, passionate, seductive, risky, and everything else that interests you. Remember, at any point you don't want to continue, you can stop. You should move slow when it comes to shadow work and really all things in BDSM and kink. You're not, nor should you, try to find all your shadow personalities at once. That would be too overwhelming. Healing can never be a rush process. But if it is going well, and as your shadow work progresses, do your best to express your feelings as they come. You don't really need to understand the feelings fully in the active moments. Just allow those feelings to flow through you without resistance to set them free. And in my case, I feel super relaxed when the emotions are starting to flow out of my system. So I encourage you to remain fluid and not interfere too much during the process, and just let yourself be true to the feelings that you're feeling. Our shadow self makes up a huge part of our inner war with ourselves. Life is made up of a balance, so where there's good, there's bad, and that goes for us too. The trick is to acknowledge this and then do the work at merging them. Listen, I know our human fragility makes it difficult to process that we actually enjoy anything deemed bad or taboo. And I know that we excessively try to separate our good side from our quote-unquote bad side, but you can't escape it. You have to understand that you are a beautiful mix of everything, all the good, bad, ugly, and weird. Just relish in it. Believe me, your imagination wants you to experience life on the full spectrum. Pleasure and pain, beautiful and grotesque, gentle and rough, innocent and evil. Our imagination really has no limits, no glass ceilings, just infinite possibilities. Add a little support from accessories and props, and boom, give yourself a stage that you deserve. The better you observe your mind, the better you can see how and when your shadow self influences you. So please, please don't ignore this. Our shadow self is incredibly important at getting personal development, and we really do need it to have an overall well-being of ourselves. And to accept ourselves as they really are. Until you accept the good with the bad, you're never going to accept yourself fully. But that's it for me in this episode. So what do you think? Have you met your shadow self? Or are you ready to meet your shadow self? If you're thinking of using BDSM and kink as your creative outlet, just make sure you know the basics. And as you know, you can find my e-learning on the BDSM and kink basics at www.thepartition.life, where I make it easy to learn just that. But thank you so much for listening to my intro on the shadow self. Tune in next week, and as always, stay kinky.